I want to thank you for joining me again as we continue on with our series, From Other to One Another, our daily devotional series that accompanying our Sunday morning sermon series. I want to thank you for joining us for that as we explore the richness of our relationships with one another. This past Sunday, I spoke on being there to carry each other's burdens when we are caught in sin. And one of the points that I made it towards the end of the message was, if people are going to carry our burdens, if they are going to come alongside of us and support us and carry us along when we are struggling with temptation and sin, it's going to be because we have made the difficult step of being vulnerable, of being honest and being open. In James chapter 5, James begins speaking about an environment of prayer. He says if there is somebody in need of prayer, if there's somebody who is sick, let them call the elders to pray over him. If someone, and he ends that section in verse 16 by saying, therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person has great power as it is working. What James is talking about there is not so much about physical healing being necessary, about physical disease being present, as he is talking about the spiritual disease of sin and temptation being present. And in the midst of that temptation, in the midst of that sin, confessing to one another. How hard is it for you to make that step? I think there's really two groups of people there that you can have in mind when you talk about confessing your sins to one another. The first is to confess your sins to someone else who is who can hold you accountable, who can be a partner with you, somebody that you can share with where you are struggling, and together you can walk through it. I think it's immensely beneficial to have that person that you can be honest with, and because one of the things that sin likes most is sin likes to hide. But when sin is confessed, it comes out of the dark, is exposed to the light, and then we can find victory. But there's a second group of people that I think that may be being referenced here by confessing our sin to one another. And it may be actually the person that you have sinned against. Taking the hard step of going to that person and confessing how you have wounded them, how you have hurt them, how you have sinned against them, how you have stolen from their value or stolen from their possessions, how you have defamed them, made them look bad before others. And to go and to actually share with them, seeking forgiveness, and then praying together with one another that healing and wholeness takes place. Where James ends up on this is with that issue. where when we confess to one another, that confession ends in prayer so that we can seek wholeness, so that we can be made whole and pure and righteous again. Confess your sins to one another. Come out of hiding. Find that few people that you can be honest with and share where you struggle. Pray over it and seek victory.